Hi, I'm Kevin and welcome back to Tractors in Life. So we started this channel a couple of years ago, and one kind of credo that I've always lived with, giving myself, was to always be honest and upfront with you guys. I don't sanitize the videos. You've seen over the years some stuff that's gone wrong. If you remember, maybe about a year ago, you see me pulling out with the rototiller and destroying the cabinet next to it. I've since changed the way the barn's arranged because it was very, very tight in getting the attachments off of the pallet racks. I've taken a couple spills on the channel. I've done a bunch of stuff, and again, I've never sanitized it, and always tried to be honest and upfront with you guys, and a lot of you have let me know that you appreciated that. Well, the thumbnail that you saw on this video is not clickbait, and we're going to get into that in just a little bit. I want to do a couple things first, but yeah, for your enjoyment and amusement, here I go again. So I wanted to show you guys something. My wife and I are always laughing that everybody calls everything these days a game changer. I don't know if this is necessarily a game changer, but it's going to make my life a little bit easier. Let me show you the issue that I have here in the barn. So this is pallet racking, one of the best investments that I've ever made. I mean, you can see how nice it is for putting attachments on. The issue that I have, though, is that this top shelf, to get in this pallet, it is absolutely at the full reach of the tractor when I put the forks on. And it's a little bit more of an issue over on this set of pallet racks with the soil pulverizer, which is a really big and heavy attachment. And also, just take a look at how tight this is in here. Because I have the center doors in the barn, the pallet racks have to go to the right and the left. And the issue is that when I'm coming in to take one of these off, I've got to be very close to the wall, and it's very, very tight. Plus the fact this is the absolute full reach of the pallet forks. What I've got to do is I've got to tip them a little bit to be able to back out and get the pallet and the attachment off. Well, when I did this a year or so ago, I hit that top rail and absolutely destroyed it. So I debated on whether or not to tell you guys about this and show you this, because boy, do I look like an idiot. I can't believe I did this. Take a look at this. This is the rail. So I'd often thought, geez, I just wish I had a couple more inches. Well, what guy doesn't wish that? A couple more inches to get this stuff off. If I lower this down, especially on the other one with the rototiller, I'm not going to be able. It's going to be tough to get it out. I just cannot adjust this any other way. But a company contacted me and gave me a product that I think is going to make a huge difference. And maybe with you guys too. Maybe you've got the same issue. I want to show it to you real quick. Game changer, I don't know. It's going to make things simpler. Let me show you. So the company is KROAK, K-R-O-A-K. And here's what they sent me. Funny, because when they contacted me, I initially thought, well, I don't know what I'm going to use those for. And then the more I thought about it, I thought, hey, wait a minute, this might be great. So this is about 6 inches. So what I'll be able to do, well, let's try them out. Now, obviously, I'll have to figure out exactly the spacing and how far out I go. But by placing one here and here, as I pull up with the tractor and the pallet forks, the front end and the pallet forks are going to be 6 inches higher than they are right now. It is just going to make this so much simpler to be able to get this stuff off the top shelf of each pallet rack. So let's try it out. Here's what I've learned. Number one, I think that these ramps are going to be better for putting stuff on the pallet rack than taking it off, if that makes any sense. Because here are the marks that I made with a Sharpie over here. So that way I'll know where to put the ramps. So it's kind of hard to describe, but you've got to consider the lengths of the forks. So to use the ramps to take stuff off is not as effective as putting them on, because I can have the forks outstretched and I can have the load up here, and as I'm lining up on the pallet rack, kind of climb the ramp. I'm not sure if that makes much sense. It's a little difficult for me to explain. Yeah, I really think, and here's the other thing too I learned. To climb up the ramps, the first time we did it, the tractor actually pushed the ramp. But I put it in four-wheel drive, and it seemed to grab much better, and no issue whatsoever. And again, I gained 6 inches. And honestly, putting the stuff on, really heavy stuff, is more difficult than taking it off. I can, kind of angle the forks a little bit, and I can make it happen. I'm not as sure about taking stuff off. I'm gonna have to play with this some more, but I am absolutely sure putting stuff on the pallet racks that these ramps are gonna be great. Yeah, so as I'm filming this is the day after Easter. So yesterday, I normally, I think a lot of people, I always make a ham on Easter, but my youngest daughter doesn't really like it, and I thought I'm gonna do something different. Plus I'm kind of celebrating, that spring is here, and I love smoking meat. I've done it, my gosh, for 40 years. I've had every kind of smoker you can imagine, from the little electric bullet ones to some of the high-tech ones that you control with your phone with an app and things like that. And I've kind of gravitated towards an upright smoker that fires the wood with propane. And cook, if I do say so myself, and my family will say, a lot of good meals. So I wanted to do something different, and I normally put the smoker up in the fall, like October or something like that. So I've not been able to do this for about 6 months now. So I was looking forward to making some baby back ribs, and it's one of my family's favorites. I couldn't even count how many times that I've done it. I'm pretty proud of the results that I normally get. So I thought, hey, what the heck? You know what? Maybe I'll film a little snippet for the viewers. And the way that this works is there is a tray in the smoker that is above the flame, where you put hickory chips or mesquite, whatever your preference is, but we like hickory a lot. And then above that, there's a water bath, and what that's supposed to do is to keep the meat from drying out, is it constantly puts humidity inside the smoker. Well, this year what I decided to do, my cousin had given me a bag of hickory from a hickory tree that he took down, which was great. And I've had it in a bag in the house garage for, oh my gosh, probably a couple years now. So I knew it was gonna be really good and dry. So what you're supposed to do is, with the normal hickory chips, these are not chips, this is a chunk of wood, is you soak the chips in water for an hour or two, and then when you put it in the bowl that holds the wood, it smokes, okay? I'd never done this before. Now, I used to have, years ago, a big wood-fired unit where I would actually put almost logs of hickory in there, but that was designed for this. This smoker, I now know, was not designed for that. So here's what happened. So the first thing I did was to prepare the meat and kind of showed that to you guys. And so my recipe's pretty simple. I just pat them dry. As far as the silver skin on the back, all I do is I make some scores. I don't peel it. On the back side, the only thing that I put is some kosher salt, because I don't want it to burn on the back side, and some coarse ground pepper. Flip them over. Go salt and pepper. And I'm going to put on some chili powder. I like to put the chili powder on before I put the paprika on so I can see exactly how much I'm putting on. Now definitely some garlic powder because that's barbecue. And then some paprika. Apple cider vinegar. And this is sparingly. Some brown sugar. Not a lot. It's going to add a really nice kind of crunchiness, sweetness to the ribs. So then I let it rest, the meat, for about 2 days. I like all the flavors to kind of infuse themselves in the meat, wrapped it up in plastic, and put it in the refrigerator. So on Easter morning, came out and unwrapped the ribs, put wood chips in the container that holds the wood. I had already filled up the water bath and started to smoke the meat.
I love the smell of napalm in the morning. It smells like victory.
I love the smell of hickory in the morning. Smells like victory. You know, I swear, I've told my wife Tess, if they ever made men's cologne that was hickory scented, I think us guys would buy it. What I'll normally do is I will smoke the meat for 2 hours, then I will take it off, as you're seeing right here, and wrap it in foil. But before I do that, I sauce the meat, wrap it back up in foil, put it back on the smoker for another 2 hours. And I try to maintain 250, 220 degrees throughout the process. And then by doing this, the ribs just come out fantastic that way. So here's what's happened. I sauced the meat, I wrapped them in foil, I came outside, and this is what I saw. So what you're not seeing here after this clip was I immediately closed the door to try to stifle the oxygen, of course, and then, of course, turn the propane tank off. But by this time, that grease was really going good. So this water bath normally sits right up here, and then down here is where you put your wood chips. So what happened was, if you think of it this way, is, you know, the consistency of those large chunks of wood. First of all, I'm thinking I didn't soak them long enough. I soaked them maybe an hour and a half or so. I probably should have soaked them overnight. I think that was mistake number one. So what ended up happening was the flame down under here ignited the hickory chips. So it then boiled off the water that was in the water bath, so we didn't have that humidity anymore, and it basically started a grease fire. Take a look at this. Here's what the water bath looks like, all charred. Because here's the sheet pan. Because if you know anything about a grease fire, you know, the last thing you want to do is put water on it. So what I did was I took the sheet pan that I had out here and tried to smother the fire, and it worked somewhat. So then what I did was I took my tongs, I pulled the water bath out of there, and because it was now on fire, a pretty good sized fire, and took it outside. There was a puddling outside in the barn, and you know, put it out that way. Now here's what's kind of ironic about this story. A few videos ago, I helped some neighbors out with snow plowing, And in that process, I lost a camera. And people, a very small percentage, but some of the people were like, you should never help a neighbor, and no good deed goes unpunished, and so on and so forth. Well, these people are great. I've helped them a number of times. They've offered to help me a number of times. I've got the barn door open, and it's a pretty good fire. And so smoke's billowing out. So my neighbor, when I walked out of the barn, my neighbor was running to the barn with a fire extinguisher. She saw, her husband Greg wasn't even home, I'm thinking. She saw the smoke coming out from the barn, grabbed her fire extinguisher, and was over here in no time at all. Yeah, that's a good neighbor. I mean, she was willing to help me fight this fire. Well, I obviously did put the fire out. I mean, the barn's still here, but I learned a lot. I really did. As I said, I think number one is not to use those large wood chips in this, or I shouldn't even say wood chips, wood chunks in this type of a smoker. It's not made for it, it's made for chips. I'd never done it before. I did chop up the pieces, but I didn't chop them up small enough, and I didn't soak them long enough. Now, here's the good news. After I got the fire out, I was able to then continue with the last 2 hours of smoking the meat while it was then in the foil. And here's a little picture of it. It turned out great. We had a great meal, kind of had a chuckle over it. But yeah, you know what? I got a lot of money in this barn. That would have been disaster. It would have been disaster on a lot of different levels, one of which might have been a great video singularly, but it really would have hurt our channel because I would have had no place to make videos. So yeah, that was how we spent our Easter. Yeah, hey, so if I'm watching this video, I'm probably asking the question, so why did this idiot even do this inside the barn? Well, first of all, it was right next to the door, but also when you've got a propane fired smoker, your biggest enemy is wind. You'll come out to check your meat and see that the wind is blowing out the flame, and then you're just, depending on how often you've been checking it, you're not sure how to adjust your time and what have you. So that was number one. It was also pretty cold that morning, and again, I've done it many times. So yeah, but it's a lesson learned. I need to adjust the way. I was actually thinking about taking some stainless steel around the bottom of the smoker to shield it from wind, because that does happen. Normally, I'm doing the smoking out on the back patio, and I didn't today because of the wind and it being kind of cold out. Hey, whatever I can do to entertain you guys, even if it means burning the place down. I really do thank you for joining us to watch our video. If you enjoyed this type of content, we sure would appreciate it if you'd consider subscribing, maybe give us a thumbs up. That'd mean an awful lot to us, it really would. Thank you so much for watching our videos. God bless you all, and we will see you next time on Tractors in Life.